Hello friends, welcome to Study by Technologies, and in our today's session we are going to discuss about Mesopotamian civilization. This chapter is actually related to class 6 for ICSE board, but it is equally important to all the classes. So let's go ahead and see what about this Mesopotamian civilization over here. So now the first course is something about civilization. Now what is this civilization actually? If we talk about a civilization, it is basically an advanced stage or system of social development. Now, what is this social development? You know very well, people during early days of their life, they used to live it like a nomadic people, right? They might stay somewhere in caves, or they might stay in live on trees, and they used to eat like raw meat and so called like that. But later on, they started living in a group, in a society, and that lead to something called as the civilization. So, what are the main features or important features of a particular civilization? So, the first point over here is like they have a settled life. First of all, they don't have to roam here and there, and they have to, worry about any point or any case in that scenario. Next one is they have a surplus food production. That simply means like they don't have to just hunt the animal and eat it immediately. And if they do not hunt anybody, or if they do not get any animal, they have to sleep without any food. So they just grow up the food, and they learn how to store it, right, for later use. Then we have towns and cities. We have proper town planning, residential buildings, and monuments. You might have seen a lot of ancient monuments like Hanging Garden of Babylon and so on. So this is all about your town planning. Similarly, you might have heard about the Indus Valley civilization, Harappa civilization. They were example of excellent town planning and architecture. Then they have a government bodies and laws. Of course, it may be by some royal families, or there may be a king, or of course, democracy was not at that time. That was not present at that time. But yes, it was about the kings who actually ruled the entire civilization over there. Right. Then they have a dedicated language and a script. Of course, like in case if they are living in a civilization, they might be using agriculture. They might be, doing some kind of trade and business. And for that, they must have idea about the language. They must have thorough knowledge of a script. So these are the basic, main features of any kind of civilization. Right. So now, if we look at the ancient civilizations, we can easily trace that most of the civilizations developed near the rivers, right? Or they developed at the river banks actually. So let's see why this actually happened. The first case is like abundant water supply, right? Because there was abundant water supply to support the large settlements over there, right? And if the water is near, and if you have settled near a bank of a river, then that land becomes very much fertile, and the crops grew in plenty, giving people adequate free time to devote to creative activities and their occupations. Okay. And of course, during those time, rivers were the main reason for our main, mode of transport. They were acted as a means of transport to carry people and goods from one place to another. Okay, so these were the reasons like why most of the civilizations, whether it is Indus Valley civilization or Ganga civilization or Mesopotamian civilization, developed near the river banks. So now let's concentrate our study to the Mesopotamian civilization over here. And the first point is, what does this Mesopotamian stands for? Mesopotamia or Mesopotamian basically is just a Greek word which means land between two rivers. And if you look closely at this particular map, you can see that there is a river Tigris over here. You can just follow my pointer over here, and you can see that we have a river called as Euphrates, right? So we have these two cases. Now let me help you on this. Yeah. So we have this river Tigris over here, and we have the river Euphrates. So you can clearly see that these two rivers are flowing parallelly to each other, almost parallel to each other. And there, in the bank of these two rivers, the civilization that existed was termed as Mesopotamian civilization. Okay. Now, the first civilization, or the oldest civilization of the world that developed over here, was Sumerian civilization. That is considered to be the world's first civilization, and it developed across 3500 BCE, and that flourished for about 1500 years. So that was the first civilization which developed in the Mesopotamia, right? So this is how you can locate it. Here you have Arabian Desert, here you have Mediterranean Sea, here you have Persian Gulf, here you have Egypt, and in between these two, there we have this Mesopotamian civilization. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. So now let's check out like how this Mesopotamian civilization developed, how the growth took place, and so on. So the first development in the Mesopotamian was about the Sumerian, right? Sumerian civilization, and this was considered to be the earliest civilization and developed at the lower valley of Euphrates. Euphrates was another river over there. Now, after that, it was absorbed by, or obviously taken over by Babylonians. Alright? Just remember these concepts. First of all, it was Sumerian, then it was Babylonians, and finally, it took over by Assyrians. So we can say that like various civilizations such as like Babylonian, Assyrian civilization rose and fell in this region. And hence, that is the reason this Mesopotamian civilization is considered to be the cradle and grave of many other civilizations. Right? So now let's move further. Now it's about this Mesopotamian civilization, and if we check out the various characteristics associated to the Mesopotamian civilization, the first and the foremost one was the town planning. Right. So though the towns were not very much as planned as we have in kind of this Indus Valley civilization or Harappa civilization, but yes, they followed a uniform pattern. And the town was completely divided into three main regions. This was first was the sacred area, the second was the walled city, and the third one is the outer town. And the sacred area, it as clearly seems like they have a temple tower of ziggurat that is dedicated for patron god of the city, right? And again, the houses were built along the street, and each house had a central courtyard with rooms around it. Okay. The next one was next very important feature about this is architecture. So this Mesopotamians introduced architectural forms like we have arches, we have columns, domes, and walls in the construction of buildings. Right. And this is believed to be one of the greatest contribution of Mesopotamia in the field of architecture. Right. They have monumental temple towers. Then that structures are built from some big bricks actually. They developed very big cities, canals, dams, and so on. Right. And there were some of the temples were very were many story high, and were decorated with tiles, precious stones, and marbles. And these temples were also used as observations for observatories, actually, for schools, for trade centers. And very common example and very famous example, that is the Hanging Garden of Babylon, as one of the brilliant specimen of the Mesopotamian architecture. And as of now, it is considered to be the seventh, among the seven wonders of the ancient world. All right. Now, something about the society. The society can, again, like we have a social structure for upper class, middle class, and lower class. The upper class, it is actually taken care by the royal families, the priests, and the higher officials. The middle class, composed of farmers, artisans, and trades. And the lower class was considered for the slaves. Right. The main occupation of the people over there was agriculture, because of course that it's on the bank of two very good rivers, and that's the reason agriculture was a very good system over there. So they built and elaborate a highly developed irrigation system to ensure the steady supply of water throughout the year. And to increase the agricultural yield, they invented ox-drawn plow. This is also very prominent. You might have seen it in some pictures or photographs and so on. Then they also used a wheeled wagon for transportation of goods. That and even the modern world is indebted to them for these inventions. Right. Similarly, they have another work like domestication of animals, under which they domesticated the cow, goat, sheep, and donkey. Then about art and craft. So, like with the increase in agricultural production and abundant stock of food supplies feed the population from toiling in the field, they now had more time to develop their creative skills. And settlement grew into towns and specialized skills like pottery, weaving, metalworks for making jewelry, armor, statues, and so on. Then about the trade. We have got trade from stamps from Indus Valley civilizations as well. That clearly shows that they have a very good trade relation with other societies and other civilizations as well, including the Indus Valley civilization here. Now, next point, and that is about the religion. So, the Mesopotamians believed in many gods, and every city had its own special god. They worshipped the forces of nature like sun, winds, moons, and stars, and like that. And the king was a chief priest and a representative of God on earth, which is almost very common in almost all kind of civilizations. Now, let's see what the main reason behind the decline of Mesopotamian civilization. The main reason behind is the Euphrates, that is a river, the lifeline of this great civilization, unexpectedly changed its course, and due to this, the inhabitants abandoned the site. Winds and sandstorms eroded the walls and the monuments, burying the treasures of this great civilization beneath a sandy desert plain. Right. So that's all about the Mesopotamian civilization of your course. So thanks to all of you. Until then, have a nice time ahead and take a very good care of yourself. Bye bye.